Our music streaming has classical options.
Oh yeah? Well, we've got a free option.
Well, we made all of our tracks available in Dolby Atmos lossless.
Well, we let more artists get discovered.
Well, we actually pay our artists.
Oh yeah? Well, we're gonna develop a TikTok-style video platform site.
Oh, really? Well, we removed our social media platform because it failed twice.
Boys. Don't either of you guys just...
Want a break from the ads?
Okay,
I see
all
what you're
right,
going
I get
with
it.
that. We don't believe in advertising unless there are ads.
How's your bit rate over there, YouTube?
Oh, sorry, I can't hear you. You sound too much like ads to me.
I'm done. I can't talk to you guys anymore.
Goodbye.
It's been a while since I've actually tried YouTube Music, probably a few years, and I'm definitely not just trying it out today because I ate too many of my brother-in-law's brownies at the last family get-together and he decided to kick me off his Spotify Premium family plan. No, this is genuine curiosity because I've been paying for YouTube Premium for a while, and I knew YouTube Music was included, but the last time I tried it, I was just not that impressed with the UI, but out of pure curiosity, I decided to start setting it up and try it out recently, and the user interface and the recommendation algorithm has changed quite a bit, and I've actually found myself enjoying it. And I thought today would be a good time to kind of recap the current state of YouTube Music and also Spotify Premium, which I've been using for the past several years, and Apple Music, which I've also kind of been on and off on, depending on what Shazam promo periods are available and how, my vocal cords are feeling on any particular day.
Jump in front of a train for ya.
And the honest truth that I just want to remind everyone is that all of these services are all pretty freaking similar. I don't think there's some giant night and day difference really between these two. There's little perks and add-ons that they boast about that gives them their own set of advantages, but for the most part, for the average consumer, I think you should all fall back on whichever one you can get for cheapest. If your mother-in-law is paying for Spotify Premium and she has an open slot on their family plan, use that one. Or if you're a student, take advantage of those student discounts. Or if you're a Verizon customer and they include Apple Music or something, take advantage of just whatever's available. But the main idea that all of these services get is that you open an app, you can make some playlists, and there's music that you hit like or dislike on, and essentially it's really cool that you can search up pretty much any song in the world and just hit play and your phone plays it. But most recently, what I've appreciated about the new YouTube Music UI is it feels a tad cleaner than Spotify's, trying to have like lyrics kind of baked in at the bottom, and then you have this kind of special cue bar to activate what songs come up next. And I actually think, at least in regards to the now playing page, this feels a bit more simple. It's definitely not as clean or as minimalistic as Apple Music, but Apple Music is technically one of the most expensive options in today's lineup. So I have to give some credit to this one because at least they just put the album art, you know, the simple cover of the album on what you're listening to, and because it's backed through YouTube, they have a very easy way for you to switch between the music video if you want to watch that, but it still defaults to just the song cover if you just want to listen to the song. Whereas Spotify, in my opinion, is still trying to do this weird video tab option where if you play certain songs, it picks like a 10-second vertical video loop from the music video, and it's usually kind of annoying, kind of distracting, and not very elegant. You can tell the music videos they're showing are usually not optimized for this type of playback, so I actually found myself kind of preferring the YouTube Music user interface, even though as far as like the landing page goes, the search page goes, the discovery page and everything, they're both very similar. You know, you just open up and they say, here's some recommendations we have based on your previous listening, and you have a library where you can assort your playlists, and I used a free app called Free the Music that lets you convert like 100 songs from one service to another, so that saved a lot of time, thankfully. And if you give them your email address, they'll convert up to like 200 to 300 songs for you, so I just gave them a dummy email address. Thanks, you guys. But it did work, and it was pretty intuitive, just signing into your YouTube account and your Spotify account to easily transfer playlists over. But one advantage that I've actually discovered to YouTube Music that Spotify doesn't have is if you're the kind of weird person like me that likes listening to remixes or mashups. There's a lot of YouTube artists out there that do kind of mashups of different scores. I'm a big fan of Samuel Kim music, who does kind of these multi-generational covers of different things, from the Batman to anime to Star Wars. There's all kinds of mixtures that he comes up with, and they all sound really, really good. And before, you know, I would just listen to my more traditional music on Spotify, but then I was just going back to the regular YouTube app, and because I'm a YouTube Premium subscriber, I would just download those Samuel Kim covers or those mashups or those remixes I would find and listen to them on the YouTube app. But once I realized, hey, wait a minute, can't you access those through YouTube Music anyway? And turns out you can. I don't have to go between two separate apps to access those covers or mashups or remixes that are not available on Spotify. And you can even download those for offline use, you know, if you're going on a plane and you want to listen to music for extended periods. So I actually really liked that integration part of YouTube Music. And just because I know you guys are watching YouTube right now, you can also find our Tailosive Tech and EV podcast straight from the YouTube Music app. And as long as you're paying for premium, which you probably are if you're using this app, there's no ads on our podcast, by the way. Whereas if you listen to them through Apple Podcasts or Spotify, Spreaker, their podcast hosting service we use, is going to put ads in those because Apple Podcasts and Spotify do not naturally have like the baked in monetization system for third-party creators. Whereas us, we're all pretty much powered through YouTube. That's how most of you guys watch us or listen to us. So if you don't want ads on our podcasts, YouTube Music might be a good solution for you. But I understand a lot of people's concern comes down to audio quality. I know YouTube Music has kind of been known for having lower bit rates and stuff. And I was mowing the lawn for several hours this morning and just listening through YouTube Music. And I'm no audiophile, but I could even pick up a little bit less detail in the highs, but it still felt very full. It hits the bass notes and the mid is pretty decent. But ultimately, most of us are listening to this stuff through AirPods and connecting to Bluetooth speakers or connecting to the sound system in your car. And personally, I don't notice a huge difference in audio quality switching between Spotify Premium, YouTube Music, and even Apple Music, but I've heard otherwise. My guess is that Apple, because of their lossless and because of their spatial audio support and their higher bit rates, they likely are still going to reign supreme when it comes to just overall audio quality. But in my view, it's not like super night and day difference, so that's not a huge reason to go with them over the other guys, especially if we start getting into why a lot of people prefer Spotify to Apple Music, which is the algorithm, right? Recommending music based on your current listening. And I gotta say, having listened to Apple Music for several years, then switching to Spotify Premium and now switching to YouTube Music, it's kind of fascinating how, unlike the audio quality, which all kind of falls together, it's actually quite noticeable the difference of recommendations you get between these three different services. Like Spotify, I hate to say it, they still got the best algorithm. They basically, I think, can take into context all of the music you've been listening to and find the exact right genre, doesn't matter how niche it is, and help you find artists that you've probably never heard of that are actually making music you really, really love. In fact, some of my favorite music artists now I found completely through Spotify Premium, and I wasn't able to quite rival that with my YouTube Music recommendations, but it's interesting because it feels like YouTube Music is recommending tunes that are based on just the last 2 or 3 songs you just tuned into, and it even recommended to me other remixes or other mashups, which I know Spotify would never do because those songs, a lot of them aren't even on Spotify, but they were showing up, and then it was going kind of down a nostalgia trip because some of my mashups are from older ABBA songs. So then it was like, okay, he likes ABBA, so let's recommend other older classic music, and I got a lot of nostalgic tunes that came in there like Shooting Stars, and it was feeling very much like here's the most popular hits from the early 2000s. And again, they're popular music, which is probably safe on YouTube's part because they're like, hey, you've probably heard this song a million times, so we know you're probably gonna like it, but it's not as risky as, say, Spotify is with their recommendations because they're more likely, I think, to recommend you music you've never heard before. And Apple Music, in a different way, you can kind of feel a more human element to it. Like, the only word I can think of that comes to mind is more progressive. So I didn't personally find most of Apple Music's recommendations that great for me. It wasn't as pop or as mainstream focused as YouTube Music, but it did feel like there was really a human on the other end curating that playlist saying, hey, have you listened to this? And a lot of the time it was like, this isn't really my style, but it's interesting, you know, to kind of check out alternative tunes. Like last time I was listening to Apple Music, there was this really cool kind of Indian music that kicked in that I'd never listened to before, and I was like, I don't really know if I like this, and I kind of let it play for its remaining duration, and it stuck with me for a while, and I was like, okay, yeah, that wasn't normally the type of genre I would listen to, but I actually ended up liking it. So Apple Music kind of challenges you, I feel like, to try to listen to other things, whereas YouTube Music is like, hey, you want to listen to Justin Bieber again, even though no one does that anymore? And I was so disgusted that it was 2023 and I heard Justin Bieber start singing in my ears, but I was even more disgusted by the fact that it was actually kind of a bop and I found myself getting into it, dancing across the front lawn. Thank God I don't have video of that. But all of them, I think, have their own separate pros and cons when it comes to their recommendations, but I was overall pretty pleasantly surprised by YouTube Music recommendations. They were not bad, but they were unique. They were different from Spotify, they were different from Apple, and similarly, I think while you can't really go wrong with any of these three streaming services, something that's a lot more objective and a lot less subjective, like recommendations, is the pricing. So Apple Music recently had a price increase to $10.99. Spotify Premium has an individual plan that's $9.99, but they also have something Apple or YouTube doesn't have, which is a duo plan. So for just a little bit more, you can have two accounts that both have premium, whereas YouTube Music is all roped in with YouTube Premium, which makes it a little bit interesting. So for one, make sure you don't sign up for YouTube Music through the app because they charge more for it that way, and Apple gets their 30%, so YouTube pushes that 30% tax onto the consumer. So if you do sign up for Premium, that's how you get YouTube Music. Make sure you do it via the web. That's where you can get it for $11.99 a month, which, yeah, is technically more expensive than Apple Music, but I would argue is a bit better deal, especially if you really find yourself enjoying it and want to stick with it. There's an annual plan, and that one is $120 a year, which translates to $10 a month. So if you're going with annual, it's technically cheaper than the Apple Music individual plan, but that's a little bit biased because, yeah, there's also an annual Apple Music plan that's $109 a year, so it's a bit cheaper than YouTube Premium. But I think where YouTube Music really shines is if you do what you're doing right now, watch a lot of YouTube videos, because obviously you guys are probably sick of all of these unskippable ads, and YouTube as of lately has started pushing more double ads in videos, and on top of that, there's probably a lot of content creators that put sponsors in their videos. So before you even get to the point of the video you clicked on, you had to sit through like 4 commercials, and I personally am sick of that, which is part of the reason I don't do sponsors on my videos or on our podcasts. But I know we've got to make a living, we got to keep the lights on and everything, so that's why YouTube does put the ads there. But if you pay for YouTube Premium, I actually get more money per view than if you don't pay for Premium, so it helps me out a ton, and also it makes the YouTube watching experience so much better when you don't have to sit through ads all the time. So personally, it's super justified for me. You know, I canceled my Prime, I canceled my iCloud, I canceled Netflix, I canceled pretty much all our memberships except for YouTube Premium, because we watch more YouTube than any other video streaming service out there. So that's why I can justify it, and perhaps I am biased because I am a YouTuber, but I know a lot of you guys out there just use ad block, which honestly is a very selfish way of looking at it, because when the CPMs are not good enough on YouTube because of more people using ad block, that's what encourages YouTube to push more ads, and there's not really a way this content creator slash viewer relationship can work if everyone keeps using ad block. That's what encourages all of us to start doing more sponsorships or brand deals, because the CPMs we're getting from ad revenue is not enough. So the more people use ad block, the more sponsorships you're going to see in videos, and there's not an easy way to just bypass all those sponsorships, whereas there is an easy way for people to subscribe to Premium and just take off all of the built-in ads to YouTube service, even with the annoying price hikes. In fact, if $10 a month is still too much for you guys, what I've been doing with my family for years is we all split YouTube Premium Family, which just had a pretty big price increase at $23 a month, which is a lot, but when it's split between 6 people, which they let you do, and you can all still have separate credit card information and everything, everyone basically ends up paying less than $5 a month to have YouTube Music and YouTube Premium, which lets you watch them again without ads and have them in background play and everything. So there's definitely a lot of perks, in my opinion, to this fairly expensive membership, but personally, I find it worth it because of how much time I spend on YouTube versus how much time I spend, you know, navigating a music app. Apple Music definitely has the cleanest UI and the best sound quality, but how much time are you really navigating that app and selecting a song? In my experience, not that much, but I spend hours and hours of my day watching YouTube, so making sure that experience is as clean and as simple as possible, that's one membership that I'm not willing to cancel. But hey, I think Spotify in terms of discovery is still really great too. Hopefully they don't break it too much when it comes to this revival of like vertical video formats as they try to turn Spotify into more of a video platform that also does music. Apple seems to be doubling down on just doing more music stuff with the classical streaming app, and YouTube Music, I like how they kind of integrate it with the music videos that are available on YouTube and the remixes and the mashups, so you can download and access a lot of stuff that you wouldn't ordinarily find on Apple Music or Spotify that tends to be more like, I don't know, fan-made than official artist covers of things. So personally, I'm gonna keep rocking YouTube Music because I'm kind of enjoying having all of my mashups and remixes all in one place, and I found the recommendation algorithm pretty great. There was also, I don't know if it was a bug or maybe just a poor UI decision on Spotify's part, but my wife and I have been using Spotify like together on the same account for a long time, and she has a playlist of oldies she likes listening to, and I have a playlist of more modern music that I like listening to. But whenever I would play music from my playlist, it would suddenly start playing music from her playlist, even though we didn't want it to start playing that. It might be an option, there might be a setting to fix that, but just the fact that it was not an easily accessed setting and we couldn't find a way to fix it very quickly, that enough was motivation for us to try out YouTube Music, which I'm happy to say doesn't do that same thing since we switched to it and started using it. And there may be a solution on Spotify, but I don't care because Spotify is something that I was just using because my brother-in-law was covering it for us, whereas YouTube Music is something we're gonna have pretty much indefinitely because I love YouTube Premium so much and I absolutely intend on keeping that membership. So feel free to let me know what experience has been the best for you guys, and thank you to everybody supporting this channel directly. It seriously helps us out a ton, as does just watching these videos. This is your Apple Sheep here, and I'll see you all in the next one.